matches today. I am Nock. I am joined here by the esteemed Mikey Berger, one of the longest running players of this game.
Hello there, Nock. Thanks very much for the nice welcome. Yeah, always great and fun to do these matches in commentary. So, and I should apologize straight off actually to anyone listening, because I seem to be having a little bit of trouble with my internet connection or something similar like that. So hopefully I'll be able to commentate on as much as I can during this match.
We are starting here on Adobe Mountain Run, one of the tracks in the Galactic Circuit, probably the hardest circuit of any of the 4 tournament circuits in this game. We went here by Mageius's admission because it's just a good track to warm up on. It's not one of the most brutal tracks in the game, but it is difficult. There's plenty of very technical stuff to get down here, so it should be an interesting race. Both players have given the ready, so I will give the countdown and we'll be off shortly.
Yeah, definitely a good track. It's one I very much enjoy playing a lot. It looks like acE is going to be playing with Anakin on this first track. I mean, we all know that Ben Quadinaris is the optimal pod, which Mageius is using. But yeah, it should be interesting. And I would actually like to say straight off as well, congratulations to my co-commentator, Nock, for such a fantastic match yesterday. If you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth watching.
Well, thank you very much for that. That was a fun race. And very close. So I wonder about this Anakin pick. I was sort of expecting that acE would be going for tournament records here today, and he can't do that with Anakin. Anakin's just not nearly fast enough. But this is definitely a match where the gap between the players is quite steep. acE, obviously the sort of premier runner of this game, holds many, many, many world records, whereas Mageius is really just here for fun by his own statements.
Yeah, although I think that being said, though, he has improved. I've had a look at some of his statistics, and for example, just for one example, his death rate has dropped from an average of 18 deaths per race down to 11. So that's, undeniable statistical evidence of progress there, which is always good to see.
Yeah, definitely big improvement from what I hear. Making his way through these more difficult hairpins on Adobe Mountain Run. You do actually have to cut off the thruster there. Oh, and there's a tunnel entrance. acE in the infamous canyon section here. This is a very difficult section of track.
Yes, it's one of my favorite sections, actually, that canyon section on this track. It's really fun to play. And it looks like acE is not opting to use the tent either. He's going to use the longer route here. I wonder if he might go through the. He's not going to do the classic route. It looks like Mageius has got a little bit confused there. There is a lot of options on this track. You've got to know which one to take.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the pitfalls in this game for especially less experienced runners. Many of these tracks have branching paths where one path is significantly faster than another.
Yeah, as you say, definitely favours the more experienced players in that sense.
See if Mageius elects to take the tent shortcut. Does not. On 3 of the 4 tracks on this planet, Ando Prime, there is a tent which is closed on the first lap but opens up at the start of the second lap. Going through it is a much faster tunnel, cuts off the first few turns of the track. Oh, That's unfortunate. Sometimes the game likes to do that to you. What just happened to Mageius there? You crash once and then ping pong right into another obstacle. Some very clean racing here from acE as he comes into the midsection of his third track. Anakin is, while not one of the fastest pods in the game, actually very controllable, so has a pretty easy time getting around these hairpin turns and through the canyon section, whereas Ben Quajanero struggles quite heavily.
Yeah, Anakin's pod, although yeah, it's easier to play perhaps, at least qualitatively, but yeah, he's a bit of a disappointment, really. I mean, you'd expect with I think the intention was to have a better pod really for Anakin, but yeah, he really doesn't bode too well in this game, unfortunately. Looks like Mageius just still missing the shortcut there. I think he just wasn't exactly sure where it was.
Oh no, and then he turns away from it. Oh, I think he's lost, yeah.
Well, at least we get to see a lot of the track. We don't.
True.
It just shows how confusing that section is, actually.
Yeah, very easy to get turned around in here, especially all those canyon walls look identical. Actually doing reasonably well up until that point through the canyon.
Yeah, the canyon is very difficult with Ben, because you can do it without having to use the brakes, but it's you have to get your lines and your sliding perfect to optimize that section. Otherwise, it's really difficult.
Yes, even for our top runners, that is not tournament safe at all. Alright, coming into the home stretch now. Third lap for Mageius, we'll see. Should be a bit warmed up now, more familiar with the track again.
Yeah, Mageius got a 6:47 on this track last year. Doesn't say which pod he was actually. Yeah, the thing is with the records, they don't actually say which pod you're using. So I mean, if you have a pod ban scenario, it could be anything. It's worth noting.
True, true. Roni asks what traction Aegis is using. I honestly couldn't tell you. I didn't see it before the start of the race. It does look perhaps a little low. Generally, if I recall correctly, this... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I agree, because he looked very slippery on that entry that you just went through there where he crashed earlier. I think, maybe he was using quite a low traction or frame rate, perhaps.
Yeah, unlike many other racing games that you'll find, in this game, for many tracks it is not optimal to use the maximum traction upgrade, because having a lower traction can let you slide around turns and thus take them much faster at speed. For any other arcade racing game fans, or even sim racing, you may notice that some of the lines acE takes are very strange looking. That's because in this game you don't actually lose any speed when you're turning, so if you can just get the turn rate, you can go around any turn you want at max speed.
Yeah, it definitely gives a slightly different cornering strategy. It Mageius looks like he's going to come through with a heavily damaged engine, so he's actually turning left there, even though it looks like he isn't. Comes in there with a 731, which is a little bit painful for him. I think maybe he just forgot the route a little bit, because that seemed to be where he had most of his issues here.
It definitely lost a lot of time on that lap too, getting lost in the canyon section. Though, to his credit, Mageius is a player who enjoys showing off as much of the tracks as he can. He just really likes this game and wants people to see all of it.
Yeah, and it looks like now we're going to start sorting out the next track. So for every race from now on, the loser of the previous track gets to essentially pick what they want, except that the winner of the track gets an additional track ban, which is temporary just for the next race, which is enforced before the player who picks the track actually picks what they want. So, and then we've got the choice of forces as well. So we'll get to see what they decide to do here, or rather, what Mageius decides to pick. I know he's quite fond of picking technical tracks and tracks like Grapevine, Gateway. So he might pick something like that.
And it looks like, actually, first we're doing our permanent bans for the rest of the match. After the first track, each player alternates. They'll both pick a total of 2 permanent track bans. So Abyss bans Fire Mountain Rally, or Abyss Ace bans Fire Mountain Rally and Executioner, and Mageius bans Abyss and Death Row's Revenge. Fire Mountain Rally, one of the hardest courses in the game, probably the second or third hardest course, depending on where you put Bunta Classic. And then Abyss, of course, the infamous run killer and bane of everyone's childhood, the track where you don't manage to stay on the top level across the first few turns, you take a 15-second penalty lap.
Yeah, it can be a little unpleasant in tournament. Okay, Aces. Mageius temporarily bans Ben Cordinaris, and Ace has temporarily banned the Bunta Classic circuit, which is the one we see in the film, actually.
Yes, very long, very, very technical track. Like I mentioned, probably the second or third hardest track, depending on where you place Fire Mountain Rally. And not having been there is... It makes the track take a lot longer. It's quite a long course, so not having Ben's impressive boost thrust can turn it into a 6-7 minute track easily. Ethros is an interesting permaban. It's one of the... Ooh, Grabvine Gateway. The actual hardest track in the game. Twisty, windy. If the players show the track map on their screens here, you'll understand why it's considered the hardest track in the game. Just turn after turn after turn, and all of it is extremely narrow.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the what I would consider one of the most true tracks in the game. Same really with Bunta Classic. I liked hard tracks.
It's definitely an iconic track, and it's unlike Abyss, which can feel kind of unfair. Grapevine Gateway is just hard. There's not really very many points where you would think, wow, that felt horrible and unfair. Why did I lose? You know, you can sort of pinpoint, okay, I made 10 mistakes. I deserve it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, it's definitely a fair track, but yeah, it's a hard track. Definitely tests everything. So yeah, Grapevine Gateway. Yeah, Abyss is a very common permanently banned track. I don't know if Mageius is using any forces here. He hasn't said anything, so.
No, I believe he said, save time, I'll not force anything for the first one. So I think we're just going into Grapevine Gateway clean.
Yeah, Mageius doing a little bit of work with his controller setup by the looks of things.
That is a classic Mageius move. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mageius uses one of those N64 controllers with the middle joystick, right?
Yeah, from what I gather, I don't exactly know what it was. I know it was called a SNES controller, I think
Oh, a
it was
SNES
called.
controller, sorry. Yeah, that sounds right. Certainly an
Although I
old
don't think he's...
controller, and
Yeah, I don't think he's using that now, though. I'm not sure what he's using at the moment.
right, the racers are ready and the countdown has been given, so we'll be off shortly. You'll see Ace still flipping through the menus there, but
Ace
that's
just checking.
the delay.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a delay, and just deciding which performance parts he wants for the pod. So obviously they can choose whichever pod they want, assuming it hasn't been banned. And yeah, just fine-tune the performance aspects, as we sort of mentioned in the last race as well, that, you know, aspects like traction, which you can modify, can be very helpful on some tracks. Like this one, using low traction again is helpful because it means that the sliding function, which is rather unique to this game, you can think of it as kind of like being a manually controlled sliding effect, as opposed to actually driving on something that is like a slippery surface. But obviously these pods are technically airborne, so there shouldn't really be any, it shouldn't matter, there shouldn't be any contact with the ground. But that being said, we do actually see, like when you drive over the ice fields on some tracks, that actually it does seem to affect the pods for whatever reason. So it's just the way the game works, essentially. But we can see already from the difficulty of this track, Mageius having a little bit of a hard time through the canyon section here.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. He looked quite clean for the first 30 seconds or so, and then the canyon section did its thing.
Yeah, it's... I think Ace definitely, as a player of his level, makes it look deceptively easy. This is extremely difficult. If you ever try and play this, you'll understand why.
Oh yes, this is definitely a course where the track is so narrow you can crash on any turn. Especially with Bullseye Navoir, who you'll see both players are using. Bullseye is not normally the fastest pod in the game. He is a fair bit slower than Ben Quadraneros, just because his boost isn't quite as good. But on this track, as Bullseye is the pod with the best handling stats in the game, he is definitely the fastest, but also very dangerous, as he's quite a fragile pod, and if you're not used to just how fast his turn rate is, it's very easy to slam into walls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and his max turn rate is probably the key stat, really. And I mean, he's actually a fast pod as well. I mean, he still has a boost thrust of something around 300 or so, which is 100 less than Ben's at 400. So that's the additional speed that the pod gains from boosting. But you know, there are some straight sections, and because of that better turning statistic, it means you can obviously like boost around some of the corners, which you can't do with Ben. So you essentially it results in a better average speed. So yeah, definitely the best pod here. But as you say, very, very fragile and dangerous.
What Ace's second lap time is? A 123. So for reference, he got a 126 on his first lap. I believe the world record has a 123, and then a 121 or so, or a 120. So very, very fast pace here from
Yeah,
it's not on world record pace, but possibly tourney record.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I mean, to do much better than that would be an enormous risk, because you have to just hold such precise lines and boost in such dangerous places. It's really risky to try and go much faster than that, really.
To even get a time under 5 minutes on this track is already just a testament to skill and perseverance.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of discussed this. Well, I don't know if it was us two particularly, but in general, it was discussed on previous matches. Like we're talking about like the difference in qualifying, and you can see there's just if you look at the qualifying stats, there's just such a huge margin on this track. You know, just because of the difficulty, which is what you'd expect, really. So it's a track that's really testing and really finds you out. If you have any weakness in your skills for this game, this track will certainly find it.
412 there for acE. I'll certainly be happy with that. And I can certainly attest to the effects of this track in qualifiers. I actually was ahead in my qualifying times of several of the people who actually took spots above me, but my grab vine was so bad that they managed to edge me out.
Yeah, this was definitely the key track because there's just so much time that can be lost or gained on it. And yeah, I know acE said before the match he was going to try and push hard on some of these tracks. So it looks like he's gone fairly high risk, but it's paid off this time. I mean, that's a really excellent time, 412 for grab vines. So yeah.
And yeah, as Sysasia, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, says, yeah, acE, very chill dude, always very helpful. He was helping me out the other day when I was practicing before my match. Very, very nice person to have in the community. Mitchell's actually somehow looking more comfortable here than he did on Andobi Mountain Run. I guess the warm-up really helped him.
Yeah, I think he doesn't take quite as many risks as he used to. I remember in the first tournament he was sort of boosting into walls too often. He looks like he's sort of just trying to focus more on a little bit more on survival than like just trying to basically play above his ability. So that's kind of a good thing.
Definitely, probably Mageius' best chance at picking up a track to just play safe and not try to overuse the boost. Obviously, it can be very tempting to hit that button and feel the rush of speed, but it's, of course, much faster if you don't crash.
Yeah, I think in a way you're almost better off going with a if it was possible to do so, get a slightly tougher pod that doesn't accelerate quite so hard, because I think that's one thing that catches a lot of players out. It's just the acceleration aspect, you know, particularly in the tight turns, because acceleration is very, very strong and pronounced in this game.
Yeah, perhaps a Mahonic or Mars. Well, Mars is a little sketchy on this track just due to the size of his engines.
That was my. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Yeah, there's a lot of things you could sort of weigh up, but yeah, that was sort of my first thought. Something like that, perhaps. Yeah, Mars or Mac or something. Yeah. I think a lot of it depends on what your skill level is. I mean, obviously, if your skill level is very high, you want to take bullseye. But if your skill level isn't, then you might want to try and pick something that might favor that scenario.
Alright, we're going right off into the bans here. Mages bans Ben Quadraneros again. And acE will temporarily ban Gauntlet, the longest track in the game by distance, so another one that he definitely doesn't want to race without Ben.
Wow, I was just looking at Mageius's time for last year on Grabvine Gateway. He had an 8:24, so that's serious progress for him.
Yeah, minute and a half almost exactly there.
I mean, it's tough for anybody as well. I mean, if up against acE, it's never going to be easy if you're up against him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is. I think it's been mentioned in the chat, and I think we've mentioned it before. But yeah, acE is definitely currently the top runner of this game, holding um, something like 70 world records across every category, individual tracks, individual laps, skips, no skips, every RTA category. He is just truly a monster in this game. Thankfully, the tournament setting means that actually there are several players who can challenge him, and we'll be hopefully seeing some of those matches later on in bracket. Actually, Mikey, I gather that you're one of the players who has taken the most tracks off of him in tournament.
I don't actually know offhand, but oh well, in terms of races, yes, I think that's probably true. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think acE is probably my favorite person to play, just because we had a lot of good races, really. You know, a lot of good fun races that we did in the last couple of years.
I'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you two match up in bracket. We were looking at the stats the other day, and I think you were. Seems like yeah, you were one of the players who had taken the most off of him.
Yeah, well, I'm not actually playing in this year's tournament. I should probably mention,
Oh, you're
but
not.
no, I'm not in
I
it
got that
this year. But
twisted.
yeah, because obviously, I mean, I spent most of my time obviously with David's tournament, which, for those who don't know, was a rather fantastic player of this game. Like myself, really from the old school. So yeah, we were friends, and yeah, unfortunately, he was very ill last year. So in his honor, I ran a tournament for him. So yeah, that's basically for one reason why I didn't participate, because that sort of took up quite a lot of my time. But it went well. So, and I felt that I did a good job with it.
Yeah, that was definitely a very poignant and very nice tournament to showcase a legendary runner from the old days. Davey was a track specialist on a lot of amateur circuit tracks and actually still, I believe, holds the third place run on Mongaza Speedway. He was the first person to break the 39-second barrier, and he will be the first person to break the last barrier on that track, as even the TAS can't go below 39 seconds.
Yeah, his time on Mongaza Speedway is insane. Really, I mean, there's no difference really in those top three times. You know, I mean, they're all pretty crazy. So yeah, pretty incredible time. But I mean, he put a lot of hours into that. So yeah, very well deserved, really, result.
Like we will be going to Bumpy's Breakers for the next track. This is probably the hardest course of the semi-pro circuit. Very long, very twisty. There's the difficult Aqualaris Classic shortcut where you have to fit through two buildings in a very tight tunnel. All right, countdown has been given to the players. We should see them start in just a moment.
Okay, so it's no forces and no Ben, I believe. Yeah, oh, he's going with toy dampener. It's interesting.
I believe Mages actually forced Bullseye Navoir as an extra pod ban. We're seeing acE back to Anakin. It looks like I guess he interpreted something Mages said on the last track as being, hey, go all out. But it looks like acE is maybe really just trying to give us a show here, make it a little closer than it would otherwise be by picking a slow but safe pod. It makes sense for him. The only way that he can really lose a track here is to make a lot of mistakes, so picking a safe pod just sort of eliminates that possibility.
Yeah, well, I think Ben's pod was banned, but I think there's not actually much difference in performance between these two pods. I think Toy Dampener might even be a little bit better than Anakin. I'm not sure. I'd have to check my notes for that one. Yeah, you're not gonna see Toy Dampener played too often.
To answer a question in chat, the tournament is by default no skips. However, players have 3 forces that they can use in each match. And one of the things that they may use those forces on is to force skips on a track, which we did not see Mageius do here, but in other matches you may see skips used.
I think they should play the Sunken City skip, personally.
Is that the AI manipulation skip?
No, it's a ridiculous one. You know where the tube is, you can jump over it for the shortcut, so you kind of like jump in the... Yeah.
For some reason, I thought we didn't consider that one a skip because you never actually go out of bounds or clip through any walls.
Well, I don't know, because it's not really what I'm part of for that side of things, for deciding what is and isn't a skip, but it would certainly be pretty crazy to see that.
It would be very interesting to see that shown off in the tournament. I do know there is a definitely true skip on Sunken City where you manipulate the AI to be in a certain part of the course to load it in when it wouldn't normally be loaded in, and then you can clip onto it and basically skip an entire lap. But it's extremely inconsistent. It's essentially just RNG.
Okay, I don't think I'm
there
with that.
taking that hairpin just a little too fast. Yeah, I think only acE and maybe Domire have attempted it because it's just such a pain to grind.
Yeah, it's not really my idea of fun, to be honest. So it's not really the kind of thing that I've spent too much time on. I might like try it 2 or 3 times and go, that's enough.
Right. And as I said, it's essentially RNG. So we'll see acE coming up to the difficult shortcut I mentioned. Oh, he's electing not to take it. Well, I suppose that's in keeping with playing it as safe as possible. Now, if you cut through the tunnel there's actually a gap you can squeeze through, and then you can slide through a couple of buildings, and if you don't crash, it saves quite a bit of time.
Yeah, there's a couple of routes you can use there as well. You don't have to take the most dangerous line. You can just because the angle that's required, it means you need to you risk more of hitting the tube with your pod. So it's kind of hard to explain actually without seeing it. But you can basically go a little bit more to the right, so you don't take the shorter line. But obviously, it is a little bit slower. So it's just a case of risk reward balance kind of thing.
He's turn in the tunnel there. Oh, that's really unfortunate for Mageius. That crash is some of the janky nonsense that can happen in this game. Sometimes you'll just hit the floor in a weird way and crash.
I'm not sure exactly what he did there. Did he like fall down from the top level?
Yes, it looked like he was trying to take the lower path, which is faster, but since he had just crashed, his speed was so low that he, I guess the back of his pod clipped the wall and it crashed him.
Yeah, that's quite a common way to die there. Pretty unfortunate with the doors as well. He somehow managed to survive the first and then hit the second, unfortunately. Yeah, these moving doors can be a bit of a pain if you don't know the patterns and you're not kind of, anticipating them.
I believe they are on a timer. unless I'm very, very much mistaken. It at least seems like occasionally, if you're on a very different pace than you would normally be, that pattern can get messed up for you, and you can get confused.
I think you could be right about that, because I have noticed when I've played it a few times on occasion, the doors haven't been where I've expected. I mean, it was very rare, but I have experienced it, and I was like, well, what's going on here? I've not, done this track hundreds of times. I've never seen this. So I guess that's true, actually. I think it's just a very slow timer, perhaps.
Could be mistaken about that, but that's my suspicion. New lap
Yeah, I
record
think
for
you're
Mageius.
right. Yeah, I think his lap records are true, actually, because I think I saw one from before which looked like it was a time I recognised from last tournament. So that's always good to see.
Yeah, he did say. Ace asked in the Discord chat, and he did say, "Yeah, I did get a lap PB on Grapevine Gateway." So good for him getting new lap records and turning.
Yeah, as for Ace's time, I honestly couldn't say if that's particularly good or not with Anakin, but I think being Ace it probably is.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Domire. I guess the doors have a trigger, but if you crash on the trigger, or if the AI cause the trigger, then it can go through additional cycles and you can get messed up. That makes sense. As for why the guy on the left is
Yeah,
constantly
that
crashing,
sound. I mean,
good. Anyway, as for why Mageius is constantly crashing, Mageius is a runner who is mostly just here for the community and for the fun of things. I know he runs a lot of different games, so he doesn't actually have a lot of time to practice this game. So ends up just obviously having an experience gap due to lack of time to practice.
yeah, and it's kind of again, as I've said before, it's kind of emphasised when you play someone like Ace, because Ace is obviously a very, very, very good player. So unless you're extremely good, you're not going to look great next to him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I was racing against Ace and he was going at full speed, I would be probably 10 to 15 seconds behind on any given track.
Yeah, interesting to see Toy Damper though. He's not the fastest body. He has quite a long boost thruster, I believe, which is good. Although his turning isn't so great. His turning's a bit poor, and his boost thrust is a bit poor as well, unfortunately. So yeah, he's not the best pod, but certainly interesting to see.
It looked like Mageius actually managed to lap PB twice there, so good for him. And we'll hop back into bans.
Ace trying to temporarily ban tracks before Mageius has decided which pod he wants to ban.
Alright, Bullseye Navar is the pod ban for the next track. And Ace bans Baruch Host. That makes a lot of sense. Baruch Host is a relatively safe track with Bullseye, though Ben is technically faster there, but taking Ben there is terribly, terribly difficult.
Yeah, I had to think about it for a bit. I think that's probably true. Actually, I think because of the twisty sections, I think that if your line's not perfect, you're probably going to crash there with Ben. So it's probably a bit easier, yeah, to use Bullseye.
Yeah, definitely. Even for a player like Ace, it's fairly frightening to bring Ben onto Peru Coast.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tracks really where, I mean, obviously Ben is the fastest, as you said earlier, on pretty much every track except two. But as far as from in a tournament setting and obviously for safety, because obviously you don't want to keep crashing all the time, Baru Coast is one of those tracks where you kind of have a lot of potential options, which are, all competitive pods you can use. So it's a little bit personal preference in that regard.
Mageius asking if acE would be all right with a gentleman's agreement to go to a mirrored track. But acE says, no, sorry, I just can't do it. It hurts my head. Um, like many older racing games, this game actually, I guess to quickly add more content, has a mirrored mode. You can flip any track, uh, reverse it horizontally. Okay, we're forcing an extra pod ban of Ben Quadraneros. I'm glad to see the forces being used here. We've had a lot of matches where players just don't use them up, which is if you're practicing and using them in a sort of targeted manner, you can really force people to do things that they're just not comfortable with, and maybe pick up some wins against players who you have would normally not be able to.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, actually. Um, yeah, I kind of agree with Majors. I think mirror mode would be interesting here. But yes, no Ben and no Bullseye. So again, they've got quite a lot of choice for which pods they can use here. So they've got pods like Elon Mac and Mars Guo. You could potentially go with Bowls Roar, although that might be a bit crazy. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, Bull's Roar is only very, very slightly slower than Ben. Their average speeds are quite similar. Their boost timings are quite similar. But Bull's handling is just that little bit worse, especially his traction is quite low. Um, so he's a very scary pod to try and use. It's still waiting on the track to care. Okay, Ando Prime Centrum. One of the most unique looking tracks in the game.
Yeah, I like this track actually. It has the rather infamous section of switchback corners.
Yes, one of the few tracks in the game where to take the optimal route, you actually do have to brake quite heavily. It is also one of the few tracks in the game that doesn't reuse any pieces from any of the other tracks on the same planet. You'll notice if you play this game, most of the tracks will reuse the start section or several of the turns, or perhaps the shortcut. But Antiprime Centrum is fully unique, so a real visual treat.
Yeah. And yeah, I've just realised as well all those comments I made on Baru Coast, that was actually acE's temporary ban, so I'm just confusing myself there. It looks like acE is possibly going with Fudsang here.
If I could think of a reason for that, it would be that icicle that you saw acE crash through in this practice lap here. If you hit that in the wrong way, it can cause you to crash. But Fudsang, I believe, has the highest, or one of the highest, healths of any pods in the game. So perhaps just avoiding that semi-random crash there.
I don't know. That's a statistic I'm not particularly familiar with, so I guess you're probably right. I don't actually know.
I know that there are some in-jokes in the community about taking Fudsang to break the rocks in the Vengeance and like on the gravity tubes in Uvu 4, where there are all those breakable rocks. So I assume he must be better at crashing into obstacles.
I think I remember seeing some stat for Sebulba actually having quite a high tolerance to damage as well. Memory serves.
Alright, and they're off.
Not that
This
you'd want to
is-
pick Sebulba for tracks.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So Bulba is the slowest pod in the game at max upgrades. Ironically, the end boss Boogeyman ends up being one of the worst picks.
Yeah, I think Team Toe also does a good. Is quite competitive for that worst placement as well.
Now, likely see the players taking diverging paths here, as Endoprime Centrum is, I believe, the track with the most individual, unique paths you can take. It looked like we saw Ace doing the technically optimal route at the start, and we'll see how Mageius handles things. Looked like he opted to avoid the difficult hairpins on his first lap.
Now I understand why he's doing that. Yeah, that's kind of interesting actually.
And there's that hairpin there that Ace is just entering. If you don't brake hard there, you'll either crash or scrape the wall terribly and lose a ton of time.
Yeah, performance statistics of these pods are similar, I guess. I don't think there's too much difference between them. They have slightly different characteristics, but in terms of overall performance, they are similar, but I believe.
Yeah, both having the... There are sort of two styles of pod in this game. There are pods with a long boost with a long cooldown, and then there are those like... So that's Ben Quadraneros, Fud Sang here, Mars Glow. And then you've got pods like Bullseye Navoir or Anakin who have much shorter boosts, but it cools down much quicker.
Yeah.
The mechanics of the game tend to favor those super long boosts, as you actually gain boost thrust the longer you hold your boost.
Yes. Yeah.
Players actually on lap 3 at the same time here. Ace will take this track, but this was much closer than any of our previous tracks. Mageius actually looks relatively comfortable here in a fairly clean race. With
Yeah, it's a good point.
So many deaths.
Yeah, I think is he switching between going left and right on the at the circle?
He may be there.
Maybe he.
Yeah, again, as this is a track with so many different alternate routes you can take, and Mageius is a player who likes to show off the game, I wouldn't be terribly surprised to hear he's taking different routes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you which is the best between those two that Mageius has used, to be honest, because I don't obviously use it. But I think it looks like it's a track. I think to me, he's spent a little bit of time on this. I know he's picked this before. I think if he could just learn to do the hairpin section and be confident with that, he could have a lot better chances here.
Both players have now finished their races, so we'll see bans coming in soon. Mageius banning Ben again. And Ace banning Gauntlet again.
That's a shame. I was hoping to see some more gauntlet skips. Those have been classics, really, so far.
I don't know whether I need to stop picking that or pick it every match. It's for those of you who haven't caught
I
some
think
of the earlier matches. I've picked gauntlet skips twice, and both times they've been utter disasters for both players.
I think actually you did better on the skips, didn't you? You're just a bit unfortunate that you got stuck in the rock, but I mean, other than that, I think you were just very unlucky, to be honest, in that last match. Well, you both were, obviously.
Yeah, to be honest, I feel for Joggleby, I ended up getting soft locked on a track when my opponent was at match point, and uh, I felt like he should have won it there, but then he ended up soft blocking in the same way, which is kind of ridiculous to happen twice in the same match. It's not a very common soft block. Alright, we're banning Bullseye with the Force, and then we're going to Boonta Classic.
Yeah, I would recommend that anyone who likes pod racing should watch that match. It was definitely one of the best matches I've seen, and it was on SpeedGaming 4, and it was played yesterday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So yeah, definitely recommend you check that out if you like pod
acE
racing.
is definitely a fun one, and thank you again for the kind words. acE offers we can do Sebulba versus Anakin if you want, but Mageius declines. A little unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see that if Mageius was Anakin.
Yes, definitely Anakin has the advantage there in terms of average speed.
No Ben and no Bullseye.
It looks like, from what Mageius is saying, he's intending to pick Toy Dampener again.
Yeah, I know that someone who commentates a lot of the matches, who was also somebody I've known the longest out of this group, in that of Game Draco, was very much looking forward to seeing this because obviously with the new rules and forces this year, it's possible for players to do a simultaneous ban of upgrades and force skips, and yeah, I know that I'm sort of interested. I don't think anybody has picked that scenario yet, so that would definitely be interesting to see. I'd like to see how that would a race in that situation would go.
Yeah, that's definitely a pretty scary counterpick. I expect we'll see a few no upgrade skips picks in bracket against with some of the higher level players when they're racing against each other, because no upgrade skips can be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these ideas and things, we're probably not going to see a lot of them until later on in the matches, because I think they're the sort of thing that people might practice and like use sort of a secret weapon at some point.
Alright, countdown has been given. We'll be starting what may be the final track of this match shortly. acE there showing off a little on his warm-up lap there to go under the sandcrawler.
Yeah, so that's how you can get stuck in the sand corner, basically.
Trying to rescue R2-D2, I suppose. This is the track from the movie. Has a lot of similar turns, and actually, I believe I recall hearing that they initially intended to do a one-to-one recreation of the track from the movie, but the lap time ended up being 5 minutes. So it would have been a 15-minute track,
Yeah.
and they decided that was far too long.
Yeah, I'm not 100% that's true, but certainly that was a remark I've heard before in commentary for this game. Yeah, so well, that I think that would have been fun. I would have loved to have had a track that was that long with so much different stuff in it. I think that would have been great. But even so, I think the track we've got is still a pretty good representation of the track, really, considering that this game was made before the new millennium.
And there is acE's first crash of the match. And you see the salty look back there. I know he's been trying to get his average crashes down, so I wonder if that's part of what motivated him to pick Anakin.
Ah, I see secret stats. All right.
Yeah, we've just added a bunch of stat tracking actually to our internal bot in the Discord. And one of them is average crashes per track. I know acE was wanting to get his lower.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to...
Oh, good.
Oof, I don't know. It's a little bit bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know how Mageius didn't crash on that first part there where he got slammed into the roof. It was bizarre.
Yeah, Mageius seems to have some sort of magical abilities with pod races. It's quite fascinating, actually, to watch. Seems to get away with stuff he thinks impossible sometimes.
See, the section acE is coming through there. It's sort of deceptively difficult with all of those arches poking out from the sides of the track. A lot of those turns are actually a lot more narrow than they look. Definitely a very iconic and very infamous section here. And
yeah, you don't get too much breathing room on this track. I mean, even this straight section you get attacked, so it's like...
Yeah, that's the Canyon Dune turn from the film where the Tusken Raiders start shooting down at the track. That's what those fires represent. Ooh, Mageius crashing in a bad spot there, forced to take the lower path. It is a little longer and actually a little more difficult.
Attacked by flaming bullets, that's a new thing.
Ooh, Mageius really needs to... Wow, I guess the crash will do it for him. He really needed to repair there. He had that flashing red engine, which actually pulls you in the direction of the damaged engine. Now, makes it very, very difficult to steer.
Yeah, quite close to the Zarlak pit as well. Managed to avoid it this time. Yeah, other than that crash from acE, though, he's done a pretty clean race so far. Not really made any significant mistakes. Underheating a little bit there on the just on this last lap, but nothing terrible.
You're definitely playing a very, very... well, a clean match just to avoid any unnecessary track losses. losing any track can be bad, even if he wins the match, as the actual overall track records get used as tiebreakers in the event that we need to decide who gets first or second out of a group.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one way to get your death rate down, isn't it? I mean, if you feel like you have a good chance of winning anyway, just play safe or pick a more appropriate pod or both. And yeah, I mean, it's just one way you can get that statistic down as well.
Yeah, really, the most impressive thing there was the crashless Grabvine and a 412 as well. All right, there goes acE across the finish line.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, actually, to be honest.
So acE will be the winner of this match. We'll see Mageius. See how he does on his final lap here on the Winter Classic. Getting sort of ping-ponged around by the walls there.
Yeah, well, there's a time here for Mageius of 8:12. That was from last year, but I'm thinking he's probably on pace to beat that.
Yeah, he should be able to, assuming nothing especially horrible happens to him.
Well, he's got just a little bit over a minute, so we'll see.
Really come down to this section here with all the archways, whether he can keep this clean. He keeps it clean through the first part. A couple of bonks, but no crashes.
Yeah, it's difficult really playing a pod like Toy through here because when you play some of the other pods which you might be more used to doing, you don't need to brake, but obviously if the cornering is not as good, then obviously you need to slow down more, which can really catch you out if you have like muscle memory for a certain pod and then you switch.
And that is one of the reasons that the forces system we have can be so potent. If you can make players use a pod that they are not comfortable with, but that you've practiced, even if it's not the fastest pod on that track, you can pick up quite a lot of time over someone who's unprepared.
Yeah, Toy Dampener is a kind of an interesting pod really because I don't know, but you sort of get the impression, or at least I do, is that like you'd expect him to have good turning, and he just doesn't. So.
Alright, an 820 across the line. So unfortunately, Mageius taking out just a little too many bonks on the third lap there to get a tournament PB. Just now inviting the players up for a post-race interview. Hello there, acE. Hello there, Mageius.
Hello.
Congratulations, acE, on the win.
Yeah,
Thank-
GG's.
GG's.
At least I'm improving.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, let's see. I was only like 8 seconds off of relap at present, so I'll take it.
Yeah, that's always nice. Getting close to PB.
Your time on his time on Bunter Classic actually was a lot better than last year's. Like seriously, oh no, not Bunter Classic. Sorry, Grabvine Gateway. I mean, yeah.
As I said last time, I'm more used to playing like flight sim style games, like Ace Combat and a lot of other stuff. So it's got a lot of the style stuff. So putting both the turn and my actual roll on the same thing has helped some. Also, the nicest thing is it also allows me to actually use roll to get that slight thing when you press it to slightly to actually turn, like when you're turning your pod. Sorry, when you're rolling your pod, where it'll adjust it slightly left and right. So it allows me to actually mash that to compensate a little.
Oh, I see.
I mean, it's useful, especially if you're on a controller, because, combine that with adjusting your dead zone and sensitivity. I mean, hell, dead zone sensitivity basically lets you cheat with turning if you're good enough at it. If you can dial it in for each pod, you can actually cheat that because, hey, it's more sensitive. It's going to move it faster.
Yeah, personally, I'm just used to keyboard. I'm not. I think I never can get used to controller or something else in this game, but I can definitely see how some people prefer it.
Good. It's good. Honestly, if I received a Steam version, I would actually be just mapping. I'm using a game. Sorry, using a Switch Pro controller, and the Steam version does let you use the actual gyro for it. I would actually personally set that up perfectly, but I've got the the GOG version, which doesn't.
Yeah.
Didn't the community determine that the one benefit for the Switch version was partly with the gyro to be able to do some of the crazier boosts?
Yeah, if you use motion controls for the Switch version, then you can do some. Well, you can basically do the same boost that PC can do.
Yeah, and the Steam version lets you use that with a Switch Pro controller. But you're playing it on PC, so you get the full actual PC benefit. That is one benefit to Steam version, I give it. But how did the... Gotta ask you commentators, what'd you think overall of, races? Were they at least entertaining?
Yeah, for sure. And you looked actually quite comfortable on Endoprime Centrum. That was probably the closest race there. Nice to see.
It's one of the tracks that I actually do like to practice a bit more because it's harder, but yet not harder, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's got a couple of... There's some knowledge in knowing which routes you want to take, and then a couple of harder turns.
Yeah, but it's not as hard as some of the other harder tracks, but I'm at least glad I'm improving.
Yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
solid...
that's definitely.
Yeah. Just glad I'm improving. Also, Ace, you wanted to know who I was using?
Oh, yeah.
Toy.
Oh, Toy Damner.
Yeah. Because aren't Toy, Slide, and Bullseye similar to each other just depending on total speed?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure which is faster between the three, except for Bullseye being, head and shoulders, so wasn't sure if Toy or Slide would be better, so...
He's pretty solid, actually. So if you're comfortable with his handling, then there's no reason not to use him.
Yeah, I'm working my way up to being halfway decent with Bullseye, and I'm okay with Ben as long as I can dial in my sensitivity to adjust for the fact of if you have it too sensitive, his turning can be a lot more finicky because you have the ability to actually turn faster with Ben then. It's Ben. What's his normal weakness?
Well, his acceleration isn't that good, and overall his handling is pretty mediocre.
Yeah, and having the ability to make his handling a bit better because he, adjust, the computer's going to compensate for, sensitivity on it. So hey, if it's going to give you the increase in speed for moving point A to point B, that does sort of help.
Yeah, I see.
But it makes Bullseye a pain in the...
Bullseye is pretty twitchy, yeah.
Yeah. So it takes Bullseye from being twitchy to downright, what the did I just do? So it's like, I actually recommend anybody actually using it. No matter the version, tweak the sensitivity, try it out. It does help you dial in a bit better, and in Bullseye and Ben, that actually does matter because if you have the sensitivity, Ben can turn faster and move faster and be a bit more twitchy, which is actually decent for him. And if you dial it down a bit, Bullseye can be less twitchy, which does actually matter, for some of the races. By that, with adjusting, the stats for each of them, I think, honestly, if someone actually can master that, you'll see a amount of the times fall for, I'm not going to be the person that does it because I'm not the best, but I believe you're going to see somebody, that will actually take advantage of that and actually drop a few of the times on the leaderboard.
It would be great to see for sure.
It's like if you can, if someone can actually tweak it to where they can, get rolls perfectly, to where it's just like they get that slight advantage, and even then it's not really an advantage. You're just like fine tuning it to just, perfect on that one. Yeah, that's going to help someone out there. It's not going to be me because I'm not the best, but I have realized that it does help. By the way, I have to ask this because it made me wonder this. On Boomta, did I actually do a skip or was that an intended shortcut during my first lap?
If you mean jumping over the going up through the sort of small pass in the canyon and then
where it's
jumping
like
over,
barely any space and it just jumps over, skips the turn, and something like that.
Yep, that's a dev intended shortcut, so it is not considered a skip.
Wasn't sure on that one.
Yeah, it saves quite a few seconds.
Yeah, managed to do that for the first time. Oh hey, proven there. Oh hey, slowly improving. That's always a good thing, and I really just don't ever get to practice as much. So it's like 30 minutes here and there, and a bit and during the tournament. But hey, I'm slowly improving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely nice to have you in the tourney. You're showing the rookies out there that if you put in the time, then you can always improve. So.
And not just that, but also depending on other games you play, there are skills that can be adapted from one to another. As I said, I do a lot of flight combat games and stuff like that. Just hell, literally I spoke on Robotech Battlecry, which is a combination of things, but that's sort of just those skill sets from flight combat. I won't say Star Fox because Star Fox has got a bit of a different as far as just how it goes, but it does still help somewhat. But any vehicle game that actually makes you have to deal with flight or something like that, you can adapt it somewhat to racer, and it does help. It's going to take you a little bit to adjust the stuff on it, but it does help. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sorry,
you're a bit
checking.
quiet, but I catch what you said, yeah.
Sorry. Here, let me try moving this. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That is definitely better.
Sorry. Having to use my phone on that one and having to use earbuds mic because my PC is still garbage, like I always say, and getting OBS, Discord, and the game up and does put it near its limit. So Discord, so it's just I'll just use my phone. And I wish I could actually manage to get my USB port to be nice with it on my phone, just so I can have my good headset, but doesn't want to stay in.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's okay. It was definitely fun racing today, and I hope you had fun too.
I did.
And
I did.
the next match is actually going to come up in like 12 minutes. So I think they're about ready.
Yeah, we
They're
gotta get
about
off
to
and
ready
let
up.
them get ready.
Yeah.
We gotta get off and let them let them ready up.
Yeah, that'll be Metallica versus Nectarine coming up here very shortly.
Totally looking
Congratulations
forward to
again, Ace on the win. We felt it for you when you took that one crash on Bunta Classic.
Yeah, I felt that. My streak is over, but it's fine. I got confused by which path I wanted to take, and then but you saw it.
Yeah, split the middle and then
Hey,
that's what
Yeah.
happens.
I had a good
still
run.
say mirror should be an option
Oof.
for. I still say it. It's like even if it's just for the brackets, like it rewards you for practicing every track. It rewards solid like those that they may not be the best, but they have solid times overall in all the tracks, including mirrored. It basically can eliminate some players like these tracks I'm great at. It's like, but I never practiced a mirror. Okay, play a mirrored. Can you do it?
Yeah, we'll definitely consider it for next year. But for now, maybe you'll find someone else who like agrees to a
I know.
gentleman's mirror. Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
still have 2 matches left, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
For that one, still argue, and I made the same argument last year. It's a solid option. And how many times do we have on the leaderboard in mirrored versus normal? Just out of curiosity.
I think there's 1 or 2. But yeah, I think we should probably
Yeah,
get to
let's
wrapping
get
this up.
going
And,
so that we can let the others go.
Yeah.
So we can get.
Yeah, we should definitely wrap up this episode.
but yeah,
we can set up for the
GG's
next
again, Mageius. Was fun.
You too. GG's.
And good luck in your remaining matches.
Gonna do the best I can.
All right, thanks again, as always, to the players for a fun match to watch. Thank you for Mikey for joining me at the last minute again on one of these morning matches. And we'll get set up with the next match here shortly.
Yeah. So stay tuned. There's more pod racing to come.
Yeah, I think there's 2 other matches today.
GG's.
Yeah, well done, guys. Sorry, I wasn't able to do too much commentary today because again, I was struggling to kind of hear most of it, unfortunately. But always a pleasure again to commentate these matches. So yeah, look out for the next one, which is coming up in just a few minutes.